Done.
All right, we're being recorded, so everybody be on your very best behavior for the next hour.
Boring.
No
I
picking
know.
your nose.
Nope. Or you can just like cover your face like this.
There you are. There's Greg. We see you
Awesome.
now.
Here I
Love
am.
your backdrop. That's awesome.
Thank you.
That's super fancy.
Super fancy.
No, you're showing us all up.
I know. We need to level up here. All right, so I think we'll just give everybody a couple of minutes.
Anne gets her steps in during these calls, so she's walking around and giving me motion sickness. And the Platinum Trinity, I'll take my cue from you. So I don't know if you guys want to start it off or whatever, but just tell me when you want me to start, and I'll start.
Okay, sounds good. Well, we're going to give you a very glowing introduction first.
I wish you wouldn't. Christina's going to get steps in for all of us because she's doing the walking Zoom call or Google Meets call. So I'm going to expect to see a step counter on the screen and to know how hard I'm working. Okay.
Okay, I think we're going to get started. It's 5:05, so we'll just admit people as they are coming in. But happy Sunday, everybody. Thank you so much for taking time out to join us. We are super, super excited. Papa Bear, Greg, is going to present today to us 5 questions on success. So we are super excited to have him join us. I think, Papa Bear, do we want to hold questions to the end, or do you want people to put them in the message or like text them? Like, how do you want to handle that? Oh, we can't hear you. That's so funny. We just heard you. All right, sounds good. All right, everybody, just bear with us for 1 more minute.
Okay. Now can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. I'll let you take it over.
Sorry about that. Give me just 2 shakes of a cat's tail here real quick. Let's see, tab. There. Yeah. I won't. Mama Bear's in the other room, and she's reminding me of the question I need to answer. So let me just let's hold on. Okay, so to start this out, I did enough Zoom calls in my corporate life to kind of, there's parts of them that I like and parts of them that I don't. One of the things that I don't like is that we don't necessarily get the experience that we would have in a room. So the first thing that I want you to all do in a minute, when I count down to on a count of 2, I just want you to unmute your microphone. I don't care about background noises.
We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now? Okay. All right. I don't know how much of everything you guys just heard, so I'll start over. So one of the things that I like to do in these types of calls is just to create a little bit of connection and intimacy between us. So on the count of 2, I just want everybody to unmute your microphones. And I don't care about background noise, artillery sounds, airplanes, trains, planes, automobiles, children, dogs, all of it's acceptable. Even the sound of your treadmill, Christina, I don't care about that either. So on the count of 2, everybody unmute your phone. So 1, 2. All right, then we're going to do the next part, which of this is it. Hello, Fit Body family.
Hello.
Hi.
Fit Body family.
All right, awesome. Now you can go ahead and mute those microphones up, and let me cover how I'd like to do questions today. If you want, you can put questions in the chat, or you can do questions in the you can raise your hand and use the little tray below to raise your hand. And if you do, I'll do my best to find you. But Natasha, Corinne, and Ann, if you would let me know if there's a question. I don't mind doing questions during this process or during this presentation. So part of this is that we are connecting. Lastly, I will do this, is that I don't really like talking about myself, so I'm not going to give my background. I'm a big believer that truth is truth. And so when I'm giving you these questions, they are here for your thoughts. And here for you to determine whether you want to take actions on them. That's why they are questions of success and not rules of success. Each of these questions will be answered differently for all of you. I will just tell you that I came to these questions after a long, well, I got a lot of scars of all the times that I've been coached, counseled, encouraged, whatever you want to call it. Most of it is failing. And I don't mind failing because you tend to learn a lot when you fail. And I'll talk about my bride here, Mama Bear, Jamie, and I would say that she's the smartest person I have ever met in my life. And I've met a lot of smart people, but she's the smartest by far. Just one decision takes her out of that category, which is why she decided to marry me. But I'll work to earn that every day of my life. And one of the things that Jamie always says is the more knowledge she gets, the more questions she has. And I love that. There's a great book called Think Again by an author named Adam Grant, if those of you who are a fan. And one of the things that he talks about in today's world as being really critical is being able to question everything. And so the questions of success kind of came up through that mindset and through questions of everything. So let me go to the next thing, which is the first question of success is, what are you willing to give? And Corinne, Ann, and Natasha know that at Fit Body, we have a book that we pass around called The Go-Giver. And that kind of becomes our Bible because it really embodies who we are as an organization, but more importantly, who we are as individuals within this organization or within this family. My story of giving comes from my dad, and I grew up Catholic. Some of you may grow up Catholic, or may have grown up Catholic as well. I have the scars to prove growing up Catholic, and I grew up Catholic in Utah, in Corinne's hometown, which is a very interesting experience. But one of the things that I remember growing up is we would sit in church and they'd pass the collection plate down, and I would see all these envelopes in the collection plate, and they would have everybody's names on them. But my dad would put in an envelope and it never had a name. It just had the donation that we made. And I asked him one time after church, I said, why do you not put our name on that? I said, don't you want credit for that? And he said that giving is not about getting credit. Giving is solely for the whole sake of giving. When you give and you give completely and you give unconditionally, that is what giving really is. And so how does that apply to this question is that what are you willing to give to yourself? What are you willing to give to the people around you? What are you willing to give to others and to yourself without the expectation of anything in return? If I were to tell you that you are giving to yourself every time you go into the gym and you help your body and you help to give to your spirit and your soul and your physiology, your biology, you're giving to all those things, yet there's no guarantee that you're going to get anything other than the satisfaction to know that you gave something to yourself. In that case, it may be simply the time that you're giving to yourself. But the first question is, what are you willing to give? It becomes even more important to ask that question when you are in an organization and you are giving to an organization. And, I spent 30 years in the corporate world, 25 years in the military, and I gave to those organizations everything I had. I never expected anything in return, and I never expected that I would get anything other than the satisfaction of knowing that I gave to my fellow soldiers, to my fellow teammates in the corporate world. So all these things were part of what I believe is at the heart of what are you willing to give? Okay, I'm going to pause and see if there's any questions about that. I thought I saw one. Okay, Yvette wrote in that she read the books Think Again by Adam Grant, The Go-Giver. And yeah, The Go-Giver is actually by Patrick Berg. Patrick Lencioni wrote another one called Team of Teams, and there's another one. Patrick Lencioni is a great author, one of my favorites. So another recommended reading. So let's move on from what are you willing to give to are you willing to be excellent at your job? Okay. And I would expand this to more than just your job. Are you willing to be excellent at your life? When it comes to working out, when it comes to family, friends, work, your life, the question, everybody wants to be good, but not everybody really wants to be excellent. And by excellent, I don't mean that you are the best. I think that at some point, being the best may not be, if you're the best, there's only one direction to go, which is not be the best. So I look at life in terms of being better. Am I being better today than I was yesterday? Am I reaching within myself? Am I doing something in the gym? Am I doing something at work? Am I doing something in my family to be better than I was the day before? It's that concept of continuous improvement, of always working to put on a better version of me and a better version of how I interact with others. And excellence is not a destination. It is a long-term process. It's a lifelong process. You may have heard this phrase before, which is the best leaders are lifetime learners. And that is the pursuit of excellence, because again, the biggest thing that I would tell you from a takeaway point of view is excellence is not something that you get to. Excellence is something that you consistently pursue and achieve. We live in Arizona, and there's a football player by the name of J.J. Watt. And J.J. Watt, who's a Pro Bowl player, probably going to be in the Hall of Fame, he once said that excellence is something, or professionalism is something that I earn every day. I look at some of our pros on our 3 platinum pros, Corinne, Natasha, and Ann, and they can tell you for a fact that being a IFBB pro is not something that you just land on and you stay there and you say, okay, I've arrived, I'm the best. It is something that you consistently work at every day. And if you embrace life and wake up every morning and say, today is my opportunity to be better than I was yesterday, then you are embracing this question. But part of it is asking yourself the question, am I willing to do what it takes to be better today than I was yesterday? So are you willing to be, what are you willing to do to be excellent? Okay, any questions on that before I move on? I should go back so I'm not getting ahead. Okay, nothing on that. All right, question number 4. this is the first question that I asked is, what are you willing to give? This one is, what are you willing to do? And Jamie and I always talk about this, is that most questions in life come down to really two questions. What do you want? And what are you willing to do to get what you want? And what I have found in coaching hundreds or thousands of people over the years and talking to them is most people don't actually take the time to sit down and write out what they want. And by what you want, I mean to really focus on yourself and to say, what do I want in life? What do I want? What do I want to drive? What kind of house do I want to have? What kind of family do I want to have? What kind of job do I want to have? What kind of workout experience do I have? To really get down and dirty and what do I want, and to do something that most people don't do. Some people do really well because they're very selfish. Other people don't do very well, and I would say most of the people I run across in Fit Body don't do this very well because they're so used to giving to others that they don't just take the time to write down what do I want. And by what am I willing to do, which is the nature of this question, I want you to think about it today, is that if you had a job offer in another town that was your dream job, but part of that dream job is your willingness to move to that other state, are you willing to do that? And have you taken yourself through the process of actually thinking, am I willing to do that to get what I want? And if you're not willing to do that, that's fine. Just know what you're willing to do and what you're not willing to do. So make sure that as you get into this question, you think about, what do I want? And what am I willing to do to get what I want? So that's question number 3. Any questions on that? Or comments for that matter. I shouldn't have just opened this up to questions. I'm happy to receive comments as well. All right. Question number 4. So Mama Bear and I are addicts, I would say. Yeah, it's like we need to go to Drag Race Anonymous and say, hi, I'm Greg. I'm addicted to RuPaul's Drag Race, and I'm not wanting to be sober. So we are big fans of RuPaul's Drag Race. We're big fans of drag. We just went to the drag brunch a couple weeks ago in Vegas. And we're big fans of that show. And you're saying, well, Greg, what does this have to do with the question that you're asking me? Why are we talking about drag? Well, if you've ever watched the show, you'll know that she talks about something called the rules of the improv. And the rules of the improv are yes, and. So when somebody asks you or comes up and says, hey, are you willing to do this? Is your first response, no? Is your first response, tell me more? Is your first response, yes, and? The rules of the improv require that you keep the improv going by always giving that yes and answer, and that's how you keep the improv going. When you think about life, I think about missed opportunities that I've had throughout my life and things that I was either too afraid to do, too conservative to do, too unwilling to do. I could go down the list of all the reasons why I was not willing to do those things. But how many of those things did I miss out on? How many experiences did I miss out on? How many connections? How many relationships? How many just events that would have made my life different had I said yes? So Jamie and I now have a rule, because when I met her, I was very much a yes and guy. I was very much a improv guy, and whatever she said, hey, are you willing to do this? I was yes and. And I was a much more fun Greg at that time. And yes, I'm talking about myself in the third person. I was a much more fun Greg, and I was a much more spontaneous Greg. And I don't know, over time, age, or whatever, that quality became a little bit suppressed in me. And I remember one time in specific, I was listening to Jamie talk about something with a friend of ours, and half of the answer she gave is, well, Greg wouldn't like that, or Greg doesn't want to do that, or Greg, it was a lot of no. It was definitely not the improv rule. And I will tell you that in that moment, I realized that I was not living my life by this fourth question, which is the yes and concept of being willing to say yes and just seeing what happens. Not everything is going to always work out, but that experiment, that recognizing that your life is an experiment, and you're your own test, you're your own lab rat. You can experiment on you as much as you want. And when you do that yes and kind of mindset and just say yes. There was a movie years ago with Jim Carrey where he was called Yes Man, and his kid made a wish in a fountain or something, and he had to say yes to everything. And I will tell you that he got into a little bit of trouble, but that's part of the comedy of that movie. But what he also learned is that when you say yes, you open your doors and your ears and your heart and your soul to so many different experiences and so many things that you can have in your personality and your experience in your life that will enrich it. So there's a related concept to this, which I have gotten from the Buddha. And there's a quote, and I read this quote about 6 or 7 months ago, and it really became something of an operating mindset for me, which is the Buddha says that stress exists in the space between your reality and your expectations. Expect nothing, accept everything. And I always thought of that quote relative to this question, because when you lower your expectations, and I bet you all have had this experience, you'll go to a movie where you have high expectations and it will disappoint you. But sometimes you'll go to another movie and you'll have really low expectations and you're surprised. How much of life would be better for you if you lowered your expectations and just said yes and embraced the things that you wanted to do? It doesn't mean that you shouldn't expect things of yourself. Expect yourself to be kind, expect yourself to be curious, expect yourself to be certain of those things. But when it comes to results or outcomes, are you willing to just embrace the rules of the improv, say yes, and then see what happens? So that's question number 4. Go ahead, Natasha.
I was just going to say a really great book that complements that rule is The Year of Yes by Shonda Rhimes.
Shonda's a great writer, and you're right about that. What did you get out of that book, Natasha?
Exactly what you said. Just like it's really having the courage and trusting yourself to say yes, because the things that happen from, that start to happen after that are amazing. And it really, whether it's good or bad, it is definitely changing your trajectory, and you're opening yourself up to so many different possibilities.
That I love that. And I would say I want to hit on something you said, which is the courage to say yes. Because let's face it, if you are not afraid of something that you say yes to, that's not courage. That's just doing something. Maybe it's brave. If I say, hey, do you want to jump from you wanted to go bungee jumping or something, and you're not afraid of that, well, that's what I would call bravery, but I would not call that courage. Okay. Courage is doing something that scares you. And I wish I had a nice diagram for this, but I want you to think about a circle, and in that circle is your comfort zone. And outside of that circle is your learning zone. And outside of that circle is your panic zone. Okay. And the greatest learning occurs in that gap between learning and panic. It's not in the gap between comfort and learning, because you can teach yourself things that don't make you afraid. But when you're really getting into that panic zone of things that would make you afraid, I always think of public speaking as something that is that way for a lot of people, is that, public speaking can be very, very scary. What you guys do when you get on the stage in a bikini in front of hundreds or thousands of people that you don't even know, in high heels, after having dieted for 12, 16, 18 weeks, that is what I would call courage. If you don't have a little bit of fear when you're walking on stage, then you're just in that, you just got ice in your veins, and I applaud you for that. For me, it would be incredibly, scary. And I did compete a long time ago during my first year in law school. And I remember just putting on that gosh darn Speedo thing and thinking, oh my God, I am not going to stand in front of people like this. But I did. And, there are other experiences in my life, and I'm sure all of you have experience as well, where you had to do something that you overcame. And when you overcome those things, there's a great feeling of satisfaction that comes over you. And when you can do it yourself, when you can urge yourself, nudge yourself, push yourself sometimes outside of that comfort, through that learning, into that panic zone, and just get right at that sweet spot between complete terror and recognition that you're going to learn something in the process. That's when life becomes really sweet. We have a saying about getting out on those skinny branches, because the skinniest branches are where the sweetest fruit is, but you have to have the courage to be willing to get out on that branch, knowing that that branch could break. And if the branch breaks, well, you know, the metaphor here, because I'm not talking about an actual branch, but the metaphor here is that you'll fall, but you'll learn something in that process. And the day that you stop going after that fruit is the day that you kind of stop living. All right. Last rule of success. This one's a tough one. And I'll be honest with you, I know people who wrestle with this every day. And it's really 3 questions in one, which is, are you willing to love yourself? Are you willing to love what you do? And are you willing to love the people that you do it with? And I will tell you that this question, I use the word love, and I'm using it as love. Okay. And when I talk about loving the people that you do it with, I'm not talking about, you know, I use it in the sense of family love. And here's what I mean by that. I have an aunt who I love, and but she's a little weird. And to be honest, okay. And if she were to call me up tomorrow and said, "Hey, you know, I would love to meet you for coffee," I'd be, you know, I have a root canal that I've been waiting to schedule, so I'm gonna have to pass on that coffee. But if she called me up and said, "You know what, I really need you. I need you. You know, we have a family emergency, and I need you," I would drop everything and do that. And I'm amazed by how many people I've interviewed or talked to over the years, and I asked them this question about, you know, look, if you had a family member in need, I want you to imagine that in a moment. I'll use Natasha or Corinne on this. Corinne's getting ready to go on stage at the Olympia, and she's in the backstage, and this is the biggest show on earth on the biggest day of her life. And she got a call while she's backstage, and that call is from her husband, or it's from one of her kids, and it's from a family member, and they need her. And they say, "Corinne, I know you're just getting ready to go on stage, but we have a family emergency going on, and we need you." I have a pretty safe bet that Corinne would say, "Okay, I'm leaving. I'm going." Okay. It would be decidedly inconvenient. It would be decidedly something that she doesn't have time for. But when you love something, you make time for it. And part of that gets into this whole notion of bodybuilding and this whole world that we live in. And we make time for the things that matter. And I will tell you that Mama Bear and I right now are really struggling with making time for the things that matter. We make time for each other. Now we got to make time for some of the other things that matter, which is, you know, getting to the gym more consistently and focusing a little bit more on downtime and out time, getting out of the house and being able to do that. So I can tell you for a fact that I love what I do. I love the people that I get to do it with, the people on this call. And I love myself. Now, the love self thing is kind of a hard one, I'll be honest with you, because, again, going back to growing up Catholic, I don't know that Catholicism really teaches you to love yourself. I know it's somewhere in Jesus' teaching, but man, the church spends a lot of time convincing you not to do that. And so you've really, there's a lot of, you know, layers of experience in most of our lives that tells us of why we are less than something else, or why we shouldn't love.
Your microphone went off, Papa.
Can you hear me now? Okay. I don't know why it keeps switching over to a different microphone, but in any event, so the point of this is, really take, of all those three things, love yourself, love the people that you work with or do your thing with, and love what you do. I think the biggest challenge among them is loving yourself. And what I have found, I find that most people are not very gracious for themselves. I find that the way that I'll just tell on myself here. Sometimes the way I talk to myself, especially if I do something that I didn't want to do, or I disappointed myself in doing something, the list goes on and on. I am not very charitable or gracious to how I talk to myself, and I would never talk to somebody I care about sometimes the way I talk to myself. And that's a work in progress. That's something I'm still working on, and probably will be working on it forever, which is the beauty of life. I get to work on this for the rest of my days. And I'm okay with that, because every day I get a little bit closer to being better at that. And luckily I have a great accountability partner and Mama Bear, who is reminding me, because she does a little bit of it too. We talk about whipping out the frying pans and beating ourselves over the heads with them, over the head with them. And I will tell you that I see it in every show that I go to, where competitors don't get the outcome that they want, but they don't also see or take a moment to respect and give themselves grace for the journey that they got to get there. At the end of the day, the trophies will come and go, but do you love yourself enough to know that, look, I worked hard for this. I don't care what the placing is. I know that I put the best version of me on stage, and I love that I did that. And I did that with people that I love, and I did it doing something I love. So to me, that's the trifecta. You got 3 wins right there. I love myself because I love what I put on stage. I love the people that I do it with because I'm part of a big family that has this purpose. And man, I love what I do because this is something that I do. So those are the 5 questions of success. I wrote them down a little bit right here, and I'm done with this presentation. So, and sorry for PowerPointing you, but hopefully I didn't give you any eye charts or do something, but I wanted to at least have some pictures that generated a little bit of visualization in your minds, and hopefully captured some images to make you think. So I'm done. What are your questions, or what's the next topic? Danny has a question. Go ahead, Danny.
Hey there. This is a great conversation. Thank you. Couple of things. Pat Lencioni wrote 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. I teach and train on that in my day job. So just if you're looking for the other Pat Lencioni book. And then the other thing is, and Anne, I'll share this with you tomorrow, but been really hard on myself. Like if I'm off my diet, especially this last week, we've had huge layoffs at work. I was not impacted, thank goodness, but many of my friends were. And so I didn't make my protein goal. I didn't do my vacuums that day. And wow, have I been hard on myself. Now, I woke up yesterday morning and the scale was very kind. But if you could just speak more to, while you are taking care of yourself, while life is happening, how can we ensure that we're just kind of a little less, like you said, frying pan? How can we be sure that we're a little less hard on ourselves in these last 10 or 12 weeks of prep? This has been really difficult.
Well, first of all, Danny, thank you for being vulnerable and sharing. I always look forward to seeing your face on these calls, because you drive you drive some great questions and some great thoughts. And I will tell you that the first thing is to recognize that you're not alone. I'm always amazed by how you can be experiencing something and think, when you're, especially when the stress starts mounting, okay, you have job stress, family stress, financial stress, whatever the stress is around your relationship, all those stressors that come at you. And when they do, it's so easy. I will tell you, I feel like I'm in a very small ball. I joke about wanting to get in the fetal position and just kind of curl up, right? It just feels suffocating and it feels so closed off. And yet the greatest thing that you can do in those moments is to recognize that A, you're not alone, and then B, pick up the phone, call somebody you trust, and talk it out. Okay. The phrase that I'm really working to live by, and know this. I was raised by two parents who grew up during the Depression. They were immigrants, first generation immigrants who were raised by parents that both my grandparents I never met because they both died in mine of black lung disease from mining coal. And so very, pioneer stock, if you will, very tough. My dad was a World War II vet. We didn't talk about anything. And I'm in my mid 30s when my mom calls me up, and I talk to my mom every day, and I still do, even though she's not physically in the world. But I remember this distinctly, and I asked her, "Hey, how's Dad?" And she said, "Oh, he's doing well. He's recovering." And I said, "Recovering from what?" And she said, "Oh, he had prostate surgery 3 days ago for prostate cancer." And I'm going, "Mom, why didn't you tell me that?" And she said, "Oh, we didn't want to worry you." Okay. So I come from a long line of stuffers, of people who stuff their emotions down. And what I can tell you is that doesn't serve me at all. Because if I'm stuffing that emotion down and that stress down, it will manifest somewhere. When you're in prep and you think of all the variables that will affect you in prep, sleep will affect you most. Well, the number one thing that will affect you most is mindset. Mindset will impact your sleep. Sleep will impact your energy. Energy will impact your workouts. And all these things will also be impacted by your hormonal state. If you're in a cycle up or down, all those things impact you. The thing that will get you emotionally right is not thinking that you have to shoulder all that and have to do it alone. Reach out, and I can tell you this platinum group, and I can give you guys the example of you guys come to each other's help. And there is this wonderful network of people. And if you're not comfortable kind of blasting it to the world, pick up the phone and call that one person that is your battle buddy. I am often amazed by how many people you need a best friend at work. And, if you want to consider, I would go so far as to say you need a best friend at the gym. Not somebody who's going to tell you what you need to hear, but who's just simply going to listen and hear you out. More often than not, when you're just talking through, and Danny, I would be interested in knowing this. When you just disclosed what you disclosed and said what you said, how did that feel to you?
It felt good because this is a safe space to talk about this. Not, as you said, not everyone understands the sport and the discipline behind it. If I talk to my wife about it, or our adult kids, they're just like, "Well, why are you doing it? What's going on with you?" But
Yeah.
it feels better to just have this conversation. And of course, I'll share with Anne in detail at our check-in tomorrow. But it felt good. It felt like a safe and brave kind of space. Yeah.
And Danny, I love that you say that, and I'm going to challenge you on one thing, or not challenge you on one thing. I'm just going to maybe offer a different perspective. I think it's really hard when the people around us don't understand what we're going through or what I'm going through. And I know in the veteran space, this is a really significant problem. It's one of the things that drives or exacerbates post-traumatic stress disorder, because veterans experience something in service that most people will never experience in their lives. And that produces this mindset of, you don't accept me, you don't understand me, I can't talk to you about this because I don't trust you with that. Okay. And what I found is that trust and vulnerability are they're twin sons of different mothers, or twin daughters of different mothers, whatever. They're just separate issues that you have to have both. You can't have trust without vulnerability. You can't have vulnerability without trust. And it's very easy to get in our minds. And if you're a fan of Brene Brown, I think I've told everybody here on this call before, I'm a Brene Brown fanboy, and I don't apologize for that at all. She talks about the stories that we tell ourselves. And so I think I have told myself a story that, hey, such and such is not going to understand what I'm going through because of whatever. And I'm telling myself a story instead of actually taking the moment to say, hey, I'd like you just to listen to me for a moment. I'm not asking you to fix this problem. So let me digress a little bit to Men from Mars, Women from Venus, an old book from years ago. If you learn one thing from that, it is that, and I learned a lot of things from it, but one of the things that I learned is that as a male, I have an action bias and a desire to fix things. Okay. But oftentimes women, or the female energy, just wants to talk. just wants to talk and be heard and be seen. And you talk about safe space. I think of psychological safety. Are you in a space where you feel safe to bare your soul, to tell somebody your most intimate and most embarrassing and maybe even your most shameful details? Are you in that space? And if you have that person, part of it is working to get that relationship with that person or those persons and say, look, I don't want you to judge me. I want you to accept me. This is something important to me. Sometimes you can start it out by a qualifying question. Do you love me? Do you love me unconditionally? And you're going to get yeses to those answers by the people that you're going to ask and say, I need you to listen to this because I need you to understand and hear me. I don't expect you to like this. I don't need you to give me a judgment on whether you think it's good or bad. I don't want that. I just need you to be a listening device for me right now because I'm going through something where I need you. And I'll ask you this question on the back end. If somebody came to you and asked you for those things, would you do it?
Of course, in a heartbeat. Of course, yeah.
Of course you would, Danny. And I know, because I can see your heart all the way through this interweb thing. Okay, and so if you're willing to do that for them, maybe give them the benefit of the doubt that they're willing to do that for you. Jamie and I talk about, there's a lot of things that go into a successful relationship. Love, quite frankly, is the easiest thing that goes into a relationship. The harder things that go into a relationship, communication, trust. But among all the things, I will tell you the thing that I find to be the most important is the benefit of the doubt. Am I always giving the person that I care about the benefit of the doubt? So if they say something, it's like, when you get a text, why are you yelling at me in this text? Why do I, like, if you're the sender of that text, I wasn't yelling. I just put it in all caps because my cap locks was on and I forgot. Okay. But why are you yelling at me? You're always subject to the receiver's end on a text. Well, think about that in just normal communication with people that you love. Are you willing to give the person that you're with a benefit of the doubt? Maybe that's question number 6 on, we just made another question, but benefit of the doubt is something that I find to be an underutilized thing. And I think it's easy to do it. It's not easy to think that other people are doing it for us and also hold them accountable if they're not. So if the person that you're with, or the people that you're going to be disclosing to are not giving you the benefit of the doubt,
We lost you again.
technology, I love it when it works.
There you are.
Okay. Anyway, I don't think you missed much of the rest of that. So I love the question and the dialogue, Danny, a lot. That's I think what you describe is something that the deeper you get into prep, the more you can, when you start prep, you're on the boat. When you get, a third of the way into prep, you're in the water. When you get halfway through the prep, well, you're treading water, you're dog paddling, you're just struggling to stay alive. And then when you get, that last 3-4 weeks of prep, it feels like you're underwater. And you know what to do when you feel underwater is who's gonna extend that hand to you and help you to the surface. And I love the fact that our coaches do that for people. I also think that you got to find that support structure around you, because getting that acceptance and that encouragement and the people around you, I'm always amazed when I go to shows and see family structure who doesn't understand a thing of this. Okay. And they don't, why are these people orange? Why is there music that's making my head hurt? Why are these women walking around in these bikinis? What is going on? What are these guys doing? What are they stuffing in those shorts? Whatever. There's just all this almost weirdness that's going around. But the families that you just see, these families, and man, they just accept the people that they're with, no conditions, no questions, no nothing. And part of, I think, what you got to do, go back to question number 3, what are you willing to do? Are you willing to invest in the people around you to get them to that level of, if you love me, you'll love this that I do. Okay. It's my choice. It's something that gives me fulfillment and happiness. And the more fulfilled and happy I am with myself, the more I'm going to give that to you. Does that make sense?
That does. Thank you. That's really helpful.
And I am a big fan of Patrick Lencioni, by the way. He spoke at an executive retreat that I went to, and I love he was, and he talked about himself being not a public speaker. And the other book that I was thinking of is called The Advantage. And it was the follow-on to the 5 qualities of dysfunction. It's the other side of the 5 qualities of a dysfunctional team. So I'm right there with you, Danny. What else? Anything else? Questions, comments? I don't need to be the only one talking. If you got, hey, Christine, go for it.
Hey, can you hear me?
We can.
All right. So I've been doing this a little while, and on question number 2, are you willing to be excellent at what you do? I think as women, I'll speak for myself. I deal with women all the time, an obstetrician gynecologist. I took that word excellence and turned that into perfection. And I think that was one of my downfalls, is to realize that I don't have to be perfect every day. I just have to have progression. And Ann sees it at the end of the time when I check out every week, is that it's about progression, not perfection. And my goal is to work toward excellence. But that doesn't mean you're excellent every day. It's how perfect can you be on that given day, as long as you're progressing one step at a time. So you can miss your protein on one day, and it's going to be okay. You can miss it a couple of days. It's going to be okay. It's just don't give up, keep moving forward. And we don't win this war one day at a time. We win it 1 year at a time, one journey at a time, one learning experience at a time. So I have to be careful with that question. Number 2, that excellence doesn't mean perfection.
Well, it's funny you say that, Christine, or Dr. Brandy. I'll call you.
Call me Christine. No.
No,
That's
I
my
like
job,
calling
not
you
my life.
doctor, is because then I can say, "What's up, doc?" and bring up images of Bugs Bunny. So, I love the question that you're asking, because there's a slide that I almost put in there for that excellent slide, and it is titled "Progress Over Perfection." And I want you to think, just back away from a minute. What is perfect? Who decides what perfect is? Okay.
Nobody.
No, exactly. Well, I would go so far as to say you decide what's perfect. And that's a choice for you to decide. And Vince Lombardi once said, I don't want perfection, but I want a perfect effort. And he defined perfect effort as being, am I putting everything into producing the outcome that I want? So progress over perfection is exactly the right mindset. And, I guess I'll have to change my question number 2 to, are you willing to be excellent, to, are you willing to embrace progress over perfection? Because I do think that's probably the better question. And what is progress? No big thing happens without a bunch of little things. Okay. A bunch of little things. So you think about those little things and how, you think about, hey, I got 1/10 of an inch on my glutes over this last month. Well, that's progress. Okay? That's progress. It may only it's if you say, and if you undermine it and say, well, it's only 1/10 of an inch. Well, bullshit. It's 1/10 of an inch. 1/10 of an inch progress is better than 1/10 of an inch regress. Okay, so part of it is embracing that whole concept that progress is progress. Big, small, or otherwise, it really doesn't matter. What matters is that I'm moving forward. Hey, I missed my protein this week. Did I learn something? Yeah, I learned that if I do this, or I don't pack this, or I don't prep this, I'm not going to get my protein. So I adjusted to that. Am I ever going to fail on that again? Possibly. But I'm not worried about failure. I'm worried about making the progress. So you take your progress, you take your learnings, you put the frying pans back in their holsters, and you worry about, what can I influence today? Because tomorrow's gone, or yesterday's gone, I should say. Yesterday's gone. So you don't meet your macros last week. Well, that's gone. Okay, can't fix that. What you can fix is what you do this week and how you double down. And 1 step becomes 2, 2 becomes 4, 4 becomes 8, and pretty soon you're walking down the road. So what is that from? I don't know. Is that from Wizard of Oz? Put one foot in front of the other, or no? That's from
The snowman.
Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, right? Yeah,
Snowman.
yeah. Put one foot in front of the other, and soon you'll be walking down the road. And that's how that goes. So, Chris, I'm super glad, Doc, that you put that up there, because progress over perfection is the mindset, and it is a mindset.
Well, I met you guys on year 6 of my bodybuilding career, and I will tell you, perfection to me was the award. that if I couldn't get that trophy, if I couldn't get that pro card, then I didn't do something wrong. It took me a whole year to realize that that's not the goal. That's not what perfection is.
So what is the goal?
The goal is that I take care of myself, that this is one thing that I do for me. And it took me, I think Ann will tell you, 7, 8, 9 months to tell you, why do I do this sport? Because it's the only thing in my life that I do for me. Everything else is about caring for others, my family, my patients, my dogs, my animals, my husband. This is the only thing I do for me.
And I love that. I love that, Doc. And that is, you know, we talk about people going to shows and doing, when you go to a show, I mean, who did, you guys are in it's a competitive sport, right? It's a competitive sport and it's a comparison sport. And those are the parts of the sport that I love, but they're also the parts of the sport that can produce a mindset or an emotional impact that we don't want. Okay. When you overvalue the trophy or you overvalue the placing that you're going to get, you're going to miss out on the beauty that is the sport. Bodybuilding is not life. Okay. I'm going to say that one more time. Bodybuilding is not life, and it can influence your life and provide for you all of these learnings and these self-awareness, the self-development, self-growth that is the beautiful aspect of what this experience can be all about. And getting to that mindset where you embrace that beauty means that you put placings aside and you talk about, what was my journey to get here? What was did I look better in this show than I did in my last show? Am I looking better every day? It is that progress over perfection. So the trophy that you're going for at the show, not the trophy, it's you. And then you use the feedback that you get to help you become the next best version, the very best version of you. So Doc, you hit on a great topic. I'm super glad you brought that out.
Thank you.
All right, what else? We're at 6. We got 6. We go till 6 o'clock, right? Or well, to the top of the hour. Okay.
Alicia, you had your hand raised. Did you still have a question?
Not really. I had just like a little add-on to what Christine was talking about in terms of progress, not perfection, and then just the concept of beating yourself up when you have a off day. Last year, or when I started in this sport, that was a real big thing for me. Like I would miss my macros or I would suck at a workout and it would just like pummel me and it would just ruin my whole week. And I'm like, well, why not just eat cupcakes and start over on check-in day or whatever? So this year, through my first year of Fit Body, something just really changed with my mindset because of the way that Corinne coaches. And so I've noticed this year that I look at it like this, like, let's say I go in on Monday and I'm on fire and I give 200%. And then Wednesday, all I've got in the tank that day is 70%. Then I go in and think I'm going to give 70%. Maybe you give a little extra, but I sort of calculate it out like for the week, like a math equation, like I want to give 1,000+% this week. Well, Wednesday and Thursday, I only gave 70%. So how can I make that up? You know what I mean? And that's kind of helped me, like, instead of focusing on the bad day or whatever, just put it into like a weekly goal. Like my goal is to always have like some micro goals for each week on how I can be better. And that percentage mindset for some reason, and I suck at math, by the way. I don't know why this even works for me, but but that has really like lifted the weight of feeling like I have to be perfect all the time, because I am a diagnosed perfectionist. So I feel you on that, Danny, but I just wanted to throw that out because I think all of us, I mean, I know I am doing this sport for me. I love the experience and I love it when, you know, it works in your favor and you take home hardware. But you can ask my coach, like when we're 3 weeks out, I'm like, I'm already excited for like judges' feedback and what the next improvement season is going to be, because this sport has become 100% for me. But anyway, I just wanted to share that percentage situation in case that helps, because I know how it feels to screw up your macros and feel like, you know what, I'm just going to get back on track like next month. But you don't just think about how awesome you're doing the whole week, like check in to check in.
So let me add something to that, which is, and it really flows in line with the whole concept of perfection. Of what is perfection? Perfection is something that you get to decide what that is. And so in that same space, what is 100%? If I had a night where I was up with my cat, or I had or I had insomnia or whatever, well, when I start my day the next day, did my microphone go off again? Come off mute, babe. I can't hear you. Jamie's saying something offline.
No, I was saying, or you could have been up all night watching the Japan Pro.
Yes, we were up all night watching the Japan Pro because we had athletes in that. So when I hit the start of today, I'm not going to be at 100%, but am I going to give 100%? That's what I'm going to give. 100% is not the same every day. If I'm high energy, high emotion, great day, everything's going awesome, that 100% is going to look a lot different than up till 3 o'clock in the morning watching the Japan Pro, and maybe a couple of gummies to help the sleep and everything. But it's going to be a different 100%. Have you guys all heard the thing work-life balance? Right. Well, work-life balance, and I bet Doc can talk about this, is that, man, that's a fiction. There's no such thing as work-life balance. Okay. But if you think about it in the sense of balance being 50-50, it's never going to work. But what I can tell you, and I'm not good at physics, but I am good at this one, where if I move that fulcrum, or the point of the teeter-totter, and I can move that left or right on my balance to get balance. That's the point that you want to seek, is where do I move that fulcrum to get balance? Same thing with giving 100%. What does 100% look like today? I love the fact, Alicia, that you're setting weekly goals, and those micro goals are a real big help to achieving your outcome. And now the next part is, what are you doing for a daily goal? Hey, am I setting a daily goal? Do I start the morning and say, I am going to have a good day today? I am going to achieve this. I am going to do that. Those weekly goals can be brought down into daily goals, and those daily goals become achievable. And if they're not, that's where the real character opportunity becomes. You're not going to kill yourself because you didn't get a goal on a day. It helps you okay, I missed my goal today. Tomorrow I will be better. Do you end the day like that? Or do you end the day saying, I missed my goal today. I suck. I'm a horrible human being. I need to get out of this sport. I need to quit. Oh my God, what's going through? I mean, you guys, I see the faces, and you guys have wrestled with these same self-talk things that I just went through. And you now have the opportunity to change that and say, hey, I missed my goal today. Tomorrow, I will be better. I will be better. I think we're at time, yeah?
Yes.
Natasha?
Anne, did you want to, you had something, and you can close us out?
I was just going to tag on what Alicia said, and I find with a lot of this, sport lends itself to A-type people. I mean, it does. If you're that type of people, they're also the same people that are the hardest on themselves. And I've got a client I've been working with really hard on this, but really trying to teach her to live in the gray. And I say, life is not black and white, because she's either all in or on point, or she ghosts me and she's gone, and 10 pounds later I hear from her. It's insane. So she doesn't know how to live in the gray. Like, if she's not 100% on point, she's done. I'm off here. I'm off doing something else. So we've been really working on having some grace with yourself. And yeah, maybe life got away from you and you didn't meal prep this week. You can still make decent choices. You can still eat at a restaurant and just pick something healthy. And that's the gray area. It doesn't mean you're failing. It doesn't mean you are, need to give up because you've completely blown it. Learning, for particularly A-types and people in this sport, learning that there is some gray area, and life happens, and life isn't perfect, and you don't live in a bubble, and you can't make everything work out. Life happens, and you have to be able to pivot a little bit. But that doesn't mean you're failing. It just means, like Alicia said, today is not a day I can give 100%. I can give 50 today, but I'm going to give 50% instead of 0. It's not black and white, learning how to live in the gray.
And
Yeah,
I love
and
that you said the words give yourself grace, because that's truly what it is. And I know that for the longest time I used to, oh, I messed up. Oh well, this day's over. I might as well just throw it all away. And it's one of the reasons I loved embracing macros versus a meal plan, because if you if you go off your meal plan at all, okay, that's it, you're done. It's all right, your meal plan's ruined for the day kind of thing. Whereas with macros, okay, well, I ate the cookie. Somebody brought in some cookies. They looked good at work. I ate the cookie. All right, that's fine. But that doesn't mean I need to go eat garbage the rest of the day. I can go ahead and finish out my macros now. And even if I end up going over a little bit, it's not the end of the world. And so, like, giving yourself that grace and taking the accountability, letting your coach know, hey, it happened. All right, cool. Let's move on. Let's keep going. And I think that is so much harder. It's easier said than done. And especially exactly what Ann said, most of us here type A personalities. Most of us really hold ourselves to a really high standard. So we can get into that situation of, either using that as a strength in our lives or letting it, tear us down. So, any quality, and I love, Greg says this all the time, our best qualities can become our worst qualities when they're, over amplified. So we have to pick and choose the places we, that we apply these things. So I think giving yourself grace is one of the most important things that we can do. And I'm still working on that one.
we all are.
We all are.
And let me build on something Ann said, that the day I was talking with my son about this the other day, which is and it's funny, it just kind of flows. I made a couple jokes about being Catholic, and part of being Catholic is that it is definitely a fixed mindset. Things are either good or bad. You're a sinner or you're not. It's a very binary way of looking at things, is there's only two options. And I throughout the last part of my career, I did a lot of work in diversity, equity, and inclusion. And in the diversity space, you think about diversity, it's all comers, all walks of life, all colors, all shapes, all sizes. Definitely not binary. We are not in a binary world, so don't treat yourself with binary results, meaning I am either winning or I'm losing. No, you're getting better. That be better mindset, which is the growth mindset. Again, I'll name drop again, Carol Dweck here, who did the foundational work in the growth mindset. When you get into that world and you cease putting value judgments on things, so maybe that's one of the things that you guys can think about as you walk away from this presentation, is how many times do I look at things in a binary way, as I am either good or bad, winning or losing, versus, hey, am I better now than I was before? Is where can I be? Where can I improve? Where can I be better? How can I grow and develop? And that way you're taking yourself out of that binary mindset. So that was a great discussion. I'm really glad you're recording this, because I think I'm going to go back and rewatch this. What else? Natasha and Corinne, it's your show. So I think we're over time, but it's good discussion.
Irene, go ahead.
Yes. So, what would you recommend for the mindset when in a prep, every time you step on the scale and you see the number going down, you feel good about yourself, and then in between seasons when you're supposed to improve, you step on the scale and scale starts going up. How do you treat that number with giving yourself a grace?
So I'm going to give you the words of one of my drill instructors, who said, it's all a question of mind over matter. If you don't mind, it don't matter. And so I know that's a simplistic way of answering your question, but the scale is your biggest friend and your worst enemy all in one. And when you think about the whole of you, I want you to think about yourself in year one of competing, and you weigh 110 pounds on stage, and you're at 17, 18, 20% body fat, okay? In year two, you're competing and you weigh 110 pounds, but your body fat is 15%. You weigh more than you did the year before, but on the scale, but you weigh more because you got more muscle, okay? So when you think about that scale, take away the binary aspect of it. It goes into that same conversation we just had. The scale is not good or bad. The scale is just a data point along the way. If Corinne were to get on stage today, or Natasha or Ann, and they were to get on stage exactly how they look like today, or Corinne, think about your last show. You could get on stage today, Corinne, I know you. You could get on stage today, and if you got on stage today and the scale said you weighed 195 pounds, well, that would blow your mind, right? No way does she weigh 195. But are you thinking about the scale, or are you thinking about how Corinne looks like when she's on stage? This is an aesthetic sport. This is a visual sport. What the scale, nobody is weighing you before you get on stage and saying, oh my God, you didn't make weight. You're now out of the bikini division and you're into men's bodybuilding because you weighed. That was said to no bikini competitor ever. All right. Nobody's weighing you. They don't weigh you for your class selection. Weight is irrelevant. At the end of the day, weight is irrelevant. It really matters how you look. So that's, Irene, to give you the mindset shift here, it's a daily practice to remind yourself. And man, I will tell you this, you can go so far as to say, write it down. If the scale is really in your head, write it down so you wake up in the morning and you read on your mirror, the scale doesn't matter. Okay?
Well, and I the way I got myself out of this mindset on the whole scale thing, because I think all of us can relate to this, is I really started looking at it as a data point and I became curious about it. So rather than making a judgment on myself based on what the number was each day, because I did used to track my weight every day and I did it almost like as an experiment. It was an experiment. And so in the morning I would get on the scale and then I would see what it was, and I wouldn't make a judgment. Was it good? Was it bad? What I would ask myself is, what things did I do that are affecting this number? You know, did I get enough sleep last night? You know, maybe the scale is up and I didn't get very good sleep last night. Maybe I ate right before bed. Maybe I had more sodium than I normally had, or vice versa. Wow, I got a really great night's sleep last night. I was on point with everything. You know, I took my Epsom salt bath before bed to get rid of any inflammation, like things like that. And so I started to identify what were the things that were affecting the scale that were completely unrelated, because I love when people wake up and they're like, I'm a pound up. Oh my God. You did not gain a pound of fat overnight. And, you know, it's 3,500 calories, you know, approximately was it takes to add a pound of fat. So did you eat an extra 3,500 calories beyond what you burned the day before? Probably not, you know? So then you start going, okay, get curious. What's different about today? Oh, maybe I'm expecting to start my period in 3 days. And so I'm having the normal ramp up, maybe a little bit of constipation, whatever the situation is, you know. But I just think, you know, allowing yourself to go to that place of curiosity rather than the place of judgment can really help a lot.
The last metaphor I'll leave you with the scale is think about a compass giving you the destination that you want. Okay, the compass says north and you walk north, but it's just a data point. North is just a data point, but it may not be. You're not going to walk north. You're walking to a destination. That destination that you're walking to is going to be a place. Okay, but the data point is just what the compass says on the compass. It's not going to get you to your data, to your end state or the place that you want to be. It's something that you use to get you to that end point. So just the same way that Jamie talked about using it as something to be curious about, what's impacting that, and then you can ask yourself the questions. And I will tell you, I guess my PSA is that, is there something that's producing the weight that you're not logging? Is there alcohol you're not logging? Are you not logging that non-dairy creamer or that little creamer packet that you're putting in 12 times a day because you need coffee to get through the day? Oh, but it's just that little thing of creamer, right? That's not going to matter, but it does, okay? Every little thing matters. It goes in that same mindset that we talked about before, which is recognizing that little things add up to big things. So what are the little things that are producing an outcome for you that you may not want? And then go through that curious mindset, and you know, you have people to talk to and talk it through. It's a great question, Irene. I hope that helps.
Thanks for all your input. I'm trying to find my way of dealing with this. Obviously, I have an issue. So thank you. The more I ask, the more I hear opinions. I will eventually pick the one which resonates with me. So I just will keep working.
Well, that's the process, Irene. We're all doing the beauty of what you just said. I can tell you that everybody in this call, every person on our Fit Body Fusion team, every person in the world, on some way is looking for what works for them. And when you say you'll arrive on something that resonates with you, my bet is that you're going to find what resonates for you based on you. It's going to be a you thing. It's going to be less about what other people are doing. You'll find what works for you based on your own mentality, your own emotional state, and it's a process. And it may work for you for a little bit of time, and then hey, it's not working anymore. I got to come up with something different.
Yeah, it's just I completely agree with everybody who said that this sport is not for the reward of having a trophy or placing. It's the reward of the journey. And to me, the only painful part of this journey is stepping on that scale. So I'm thinking maybe I can take a break and not step on that scale for a little bit.
Well, I would tell you, I'll leave that to your coach on whether that's the right thing. But
I'll ask her. Yes.
if you allow the scale to have power over you, then you're allowing an inanimate object to make decisions and make choices for you. And I believe you can be better than that. I believe you can make that choice for yourself on what you do with it. At the end of the day, it's a piece of information. What you do with that information is your choice. And you can
That's very
choose.
correct.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to make my life easier and picking my my battles. So again, the thought process is going. So
I get it. There's a coach we shared this video with some of our team before. But if you just go Google or YouTube Duke basketball coach, Duke women's basketball coach, the women's basketball coach gave this speech about, look, if you think that life is going to get easier from here, you're wrong. Life doesn't get easier. This sport doesn't get easier. Basketball doesn't get easier. We're prepping you to do hard. We're prepping you to do hard and to get better at dealing with hard. And life is really that. Life doesn't get easier, man. I mean, from the moment you're out of kindergarten and they take away your naps and they take away your chocolate milk and they take away recess time and all these things start diminishing over life. Life is about being able to handle hard. And when you build a support structure around you, you build a strong mental constitution, you build an open heart and a curious mind, then you're able to deal with hard that much better.
thank you.
You're welcome. All right, Natasha, I think this goes back on you. I'm not sure who's hosting this, but I think it's you.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much. That was incredible. We'll definitely be reposting that for everybody that wants to watch it again, as well as those who could not join us. We'll also provide the books that were mentioned. So if you suggested a book, if you could just drop it in the messages real quick. So we have that. So thank you guys so much. We are also super excited to announce starting next week, we're going to run a competition series. So we are going to have a call every single weekend. So every single Sunday for, I think, four Sundays in a row. These are all going to be topics related to competing. So we're super excited. Each call will have different guests. We have some fun surprises, some giveaways. So we're super excited. We'll be posting out a schedule this week for that. So you'll see that on Facebook as well as the WhatsApp group. Like I said, we're super excited. So if you can join us, that will be great. Those will be recorded as well, and we'll post those fairly quickly because we have one every week. But other than that, thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank you, Papa Bear. It is always a pleasure to have you. We will have Mama Bear joining us for one of our competition series calls. So yes, have a fantastic week. Just remember to be 1% better every single day. And you guys shine bright. Thank you.
Love you all. Thank you. Thank
Love
you for
you.
allowing me. Appreciate
Love
it.
you too.
Thanks, Greg.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, ladies.
You gonna stop recording?
Hey.
Yeah, let me
Yeah.
stop recording before we get the giggles.
Yes, because the editing takes forever.